Welcome to This Organized Life. If you're a mom, wife, or coffee lover seeking advice on how to reduce clutter and reclaim time, look no further than your host, Lori Palau, founder of Simply Be Organized and author of Hot Mess, a practical guide to getting organized. For a lot of people, clutter is their dirty little secret, but it doesn't have to be. Each week, we will share practical tips, chat with experts, and provide strategies on how to keep you organized. I hope that by sharing our stories, you feel a little less alone and more empowered to tackle the areas that are holding you back. So let's get started.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of This Organized Life podcast. I'm your host, Lori Palau. So happy that you're here. We have a really fun episode today. I really like this topic, so I'm excited to chat with you. But before we get into that, if you're listening to this in real time, we're in October now, kind of wrapping up, getting ready for that like end of year wrap up. And I've recently been getting a bunch of questions in our comments and excuse me, on the website asking if I do any Enneagram coaching or typing sessions. And the answer is yes. So I've actually been doing a bunch of, I just don't promote it a ton on the show, but just to let you know, I do a bunch of speaking to different groups and organizations all about the Enneagram and specifically the Enneagram and clutter. So we kind of start, I can customize it, but in a nutshell, if you're listening and you're like, oh, I'm thinking about doing a workshop for my team or, hosting something for like a group or an organization that I'm a part of. And I think that it might be something that's useful. Basically, there's a few different iterations and they can all be customized, but we start with a high level overview of the Enneagram and the 9 types. And then from there, we tie it into how each type can perceive, struggle with different types of clutter. So we talk about the physical stuff, we talk about emotional clutter, we talk about calendar clutter and the mental load. So we really are looking at how that shows up in our life and in our relationships. And really, the goal with this is to bring self-awareness and to allow you to have better communication tools and strategies and language with your team, with your group, with your spouse, with your kids. So if this is something, if you're either listening to this and you're an event planner, or again, you're looking to book speakers for the end of the year or even into 2025, and this is something that you think might bring value, we have a link in our on our website. I'll drop it in the show notes for you to just fill out an intake questionnaire, and we will be in touch and find out a little bit more about kind of what you're looking for, what your goals are, and what your price point is, and we'll get back to you on that. So just wanted to put that out there since it is something that we've been getting a lot of requests for recently. And I love that because I love talking about the Enneagram and I love helping people use it as a conduit to improve their relationships and also not beat themselves up when they are struggling with a particular area of clutter and organization. So anyway, that's it. But let's get into today's episode because like I said, it's really going to be fun. And I'm calling it 5 common reasons that your clutter keeps coming back and more importantly, how to fix it. So we're going to go through each of these and again, think about different scenarios as I'm reading this where one or more of these might show up in your life. So, all right, I'm going to kind of just go right in. So, the first reason that your clutter might keep coming back is that you don't have the right system. So, a lot of times people think that tidying up or just even hiring a professional organizer is going to just solve their problem. But if you don't have the right system or you don't have any system, then your clutter is going to keep coming back. And I see this a lot when people are like, I tidy up every day, but I still have this incoming mail problem, or I can't get ahead of the laundry because it's always, bottlenecking. A lot of times it's not that you even have too much stuff, which surprises a lot of people to hear, but it really could be that you just don't have the right system in place. I actually had a consult with a client several months ago, and laundry was a really big issue for her in particular. That was like one area. And she's like, no matter what I do, my laundry room's a mess. I can't tell what's clean and what's dirty. And it was just this ongoing thing that really, really stressed her out. Not only was it resulting in some physical clutter, but it was something that you could tell was like eating at her. And when we broke down, not just looking at the physical space of like, oh, here's a great place to store your laundry basket, but when we really peel back the layers, what we uncovered was that the system she had wasn't really effective for her. So she did have a system. It just wasn't a great system for what they needed in their family. And so then adjusting that, making some tweaks and adjustments can really be a huge game changer. So the number one pitfall is, again, not having the right system. The way to fix it is really peel back what's working and try to figure out where the breakdown is, because a lot of times that is what's telling. So there you go. And keep it simple, guys. That's the thing. Whatever the system is, oftentimes the reason why systems fail is because they're too complicated. So keep it simple. All right. The second reason why clutter keeps coming back is impulse purchases. Now, we've all, I think, at some point or another, I'm raising my hand as well, been subject to an impulse purchase. Whether it is we are physically in a store. I mean, back in the day before we were all online shopping, I mean, that's what would happen. I'd be at the store and I'd be at Bed Bath and Beyond, and notoriously there's something on an end cap that is, well, I'm on the checkout line. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is speaking my name. And, or you see, something online that pops up now in your Instagram feed, and you're like, how did I live my life without this? And so we have a tendency, and it's so easy because now it's just a tap of a button, and before you know it, it shows up at our door. These impulse buys can add to clutter because we're making that emotional, like quick, rash decision, right? We're not really thinking about it. So what can we do? Now, this is where it gets to be a little like, wah. Before you click buy, and I've had to do this myself, first of all, take a pause and really think about, is this something I need? Is this just something I want? And the second thing is, where am I going to be storing this said object, right? Where's this thing going to live? Because oftentimes we'll buy something, and I see this a lot, guys, around the holidays, when you'll be buying like Christmas decorations or Halloween decorations, and you're like, oh my God, this is great. I love it. And then when it comes time to like put it away, you're like, oh no, I have nowhere to store this thing, or this is like weird to put away. And so those are the types of things. If don't just think about how I'm going to use it, but where is it going to live when I'm done with it? I think that's a really big thing. Now, again, I'm not a huge like militant when it comes to one in, one out, but if it is something that you really, really want, I want to make sure, again, going back to the storage, like if we are going to buy this thing and it is something that we're going to use and love and enjoy, that's fine. But does something else have to go in order for us to have space for that? So just think about that. All right. So the third reason why your clutter keeps coming back is you haven't worked decluttering and organizing into your routine. And as much as I would love to say that organizing and decluttering is a one and done thing, it's just not. It's something that needs to be worked in to your lifestyle, especially if we're talking about like your everyday places. Like, yes, if you have a storage unit that you're getting rid of, you're going to declutter it once it's going to be done, and then you're going to not come back to it again. But for your everyday spaces that you live in, life happens. And so much like eating healthy, working out, these are lifestyle changes that we really need to be making so that we can keep that clutter at bay. I would love to say we get rid of it, but things are always going to creep up. Emails are going to creep up. Extra stuff is going to creep up. We're going to have like things coming at us that are even, to the best of our ability is going to, you know, they're just going to show up. But it's what do we do with it and how do we get back on track? So if we fall off the wagon because we're in a busy season and we don't have time to sort the mail, or we don't have time to put the laundry away, we don't have time to fill in the blank, and we let things kind of pile up for a short amount of time, we need to be able to go back. But the longer that you wait, the harder it is. So if you can start to figure out little bits, right? I'm not saying you're gonna have to dedicate 4 hours a week to decluttering, but if you're like, hey, every night before we go to bed, we're going to just sweep up all the toys, we're going to sweep up all the dishes and, run the dishwasher, or whatever that looks like, or we're going to complete a load of laundry from start to finish. All those little things really add up over time. And so, as opposed to just saying, okay, decluttering is this thing that we do at springtime and then maybe one other time a year, then it becomes overwhelming because you've left everything to become this one big mountain, as opposed to just kind of chipping away a little bit at a time. And it's really good to like set that example for the little humans in your family so that they can do it too. All right, guys. So the fourth reason why your clutter keeps coming back is because of emotional attachments. Now, we talk a lot about that when it comes to emotional clutter here at This Organized Life. And we say that emotional clutter usually stems from either guilt or fear. And in the case of guilt, a lot of times that comes with sentiment, like sentimental things. I feel badly about getting rid of things. And this could be a parent who feels bad about getting rid of things that represented their children when they were younger. It could be a loved one who has passed away, and you feel bad getting rid of things because this physical stuff is the last remaining, like tangible, like physical manifestation that you have of this, or representation of this person. And so this is hard because when we make decisions with emotion, we are clearly not using logic and rationality to make that. And so when you come at somebody who's struggling with emotional attachments with like a fact of like, you don't need this, you already have 10 other, purses or whatever it is, the response isn't going to resonate because you're looking at logic versus emotional. And this kind of goes back to where like the whole Enneagram conversation, where we have to be able to get on the same page so that we're speaking the same language. One of the things, if you're somebody that tends to lean towards that emotional attachment, and you people know who you are, right? And I'm not saying that to shame you. If that is something that you struggle with, and I know that struggle is real, I want you to really work on finding some boundaries, setting some healthy boundaries so that you don't feel that you're being deprived of holding on to things that matter, but you're also not crossing over to the other side where you feel that you have to keep everything. And so having, whether it's an external accountability partner or a physical space, like I can only fit this many things in the space, I think setting those boundaries are really, really going to be helpful. So I always recommend selecting a few meaningful things that represent that person, that time, that matters, and anything that you can do to reduce the amount of physical footprint that you have. So maybe that might require, digitizing your kids' artwork. So like, for example, I'm in the middle of doing a project for one of my long-term clients, and I don't think she listens to my show, so I'm going to tell you what it is. But I took pictures of all of her kids' artwork. She's got bins of her kids' artwork, and I took pictures of them, and I'm going to have scrapbooks made with each of the kids from like kindergarten through like 8th grade. So she's got two that are still younger, so they're not quite done, but her older ones are in high school. So they're not really bringing in like arts and crafts projects anymore. So I'm going to take them and I'm going to digitize them. And so hopefully what that'll mean is once she receives that, that'll give her the permission and the freedom to want to let go of the physical stuff, because we already have them organized in bins, but I want to get those bins away. We don't want to hold on to them. It's just taking up enough space. So digitizing that. Also, like for older people that, and I'm not a paid sponsor, but I think it's called like the Skylight calendar, or one of those digital photo frames where you could just upload photos right to it. They're great for reducing in physical clutter. Again, if you're somebody that likes to scrapbook and do that kind of stuff, I think that's great. Or even if you don't want to get super crafty and you don't have a lot of time, just corralling stuff into like a memory box, I think is great. Just so that you don't have like loose photos in every which place. Put them in, or letters or clippings or whatever it is. Have it all in a some sort of a scrapbook memory box. Memory bin is what I call them. But really, I think the key is paring down and just being selective. You don't need to hold on to everything. I think it's a matter of just finding what those pieces are, setting those boundaries, and sticking with it. Okay. The fifth one, why your clutter keeps coming back, is it's a math issue. You just have more stuff than you do space. And this is a tough one, people, but in some ways, it's a little bit freeing, because I've been into many clients' homes that, despite their best attempts, and they've done expensive built-ins and bought all the air quote right products, they still can't keep their stuff organized. And at some point, we need to have that hard look in the mirror and say, are we just trying to cram too much stuff into one space? There's only so much room in this closet. There's only so much room in this pantry. So even if we have streamline hangers and shelving and cubbies and all of this stuff and pull out drawers, it's always going to end up being disorganized if you have an overconsumption of goods. And so the question becomes, how to avoid that is having that honest conversation of, this is what my space can hold. And for some people, that might be less than ideal. But I see this oftentimes when people are moving. I see it a lot with college kids. They're moving from their childhood home, into an apartment or a dorm or wherever it is. And they have to bring a limited number of things, and they're used to having a lot of room to spread out. And so now you need to make some really tough decisions and choices. So what is that going to look at? And what do I need to pare down? And what am I going to miss? Because I think we all tend to have a lot of things because of convenience. But really, if you are in a situation where you have to make some decisions, think about, what are the things that I would really miss if they weren't there? What are the things that I might be able to borrow if I need it? What are the things that I use so infrequently that, like, I really don't think I need it? Those are some of the questions that you might want to ask yourself. I always say also focus in on like quality over quantity. So get yourself, a couple good pairs of, boots, or a couple good pair, like invest in a few really good pairs of jeans that you like and look good on you, as opposed to having like 10 cheap pairs. Think quality over quantity, and be realistic about what your home can hold, or what your space can hold. And sometimes if we have blinders and we're not good, it's helpful to bring somebody in, whether that is a friend or a professional. My family jokes that I'm like the master of spatial relations. Like, I can look at a space and see what can fit there comfortably without it becoming overcrowded and feel like the space is cluttered. But not everybody has that. That's one of my weird little superpowers. So if that's something that you need help with, like, just ask. It's not it's better to ask than to just continue to beat yourself up about things or think that you don't have the right system in place, because maybe the system's fine. It's just the amount of stuff that you have. So again, those are the 5 things. I'm going to run through them again really quick. 5 common reasons your clutter keeps coming back. 1, you don't have the right systems. 2, you do impulse purchases. 3, you're not decluttering regularly. It's not part of your routine. 4th, you struggle with a lot of emotional clutter. So you have emotional attachments that stand in your way. And the 5th is that you have too much stuff and not enough space. So we're going to link in the show notes. We'll have all of the different recommendations that we have. So check that out. And again, if you are not already on our email list, definitely get on that. Excuse me, there's a link in the show notes. We send a weekly digest, a weekly recap of what our episodes are, plus if there's anything else happening. And that way you can just easily, from your phone or from your laptop or wherever, you can read our transcripts or the blog if sometimes that's helpful to like learn it a different way, not just hear it or see it, but to actually read it. I hope this has been helpful, and I'm really excited to move into the fall. We've got some great guests and topics lined up. So if you're not already subscribed, hit that follow, subscribe button wherever you're listening. And until next week,